Moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Seaman. All those in favor? Those carried. Okay, thank you. Any declarations, conflict of interest over $250? Seeing none, we'll move on. Minutes. 5A, Electoral Area Directors Committee meetings held 18th of June, 2025. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Director Ross, seconded by Director Seaman. All those in favor? Those carried. Great. That brings us into petitions, delegation, and presentations, which we have none. Correspondence to action, which we have none. Request for decision. Request for decision 2026-2030 draft financial budget, Turtle Area Sub-Regional Services. That would be Terry. Take it away.
Yes, again, thank you. This camera angle is weird. Okay, thank you. So today we're going to discuss the Electoral Area Director sub-regional components of the financial plan, starting with rural area planning or management of development rural areas. As I noted in the narrative, this service is artificially dropping in tax requisition this year. This is not a sustainable drop. This is a one-time thing based on all the additional grant funding that we received in 2024 and 2025 that we were actually able to use to apply to mostly routine operations. So there was very little, well, there was staff costs, but very little cost incurred during the year that we weren't able to attribute to one grant or another. This funding is now completed from the province, and so the tax requisition in 2027 will bounce back to that normal level of 670,000-ish. We did take the opportunity this year, though, to offset the increase that's going to occur in electoral area administration as a result of the local government elections. So I think that it's a great opportunity for us to offset some of those costs, which was amazing. But just a reminder that when next year we hand you back a large increase, that the reason why is that this was an artificial decrease. So lots going on in this, most significantly the OCPs, and Alex, the GM of Planning and Development, is here to assist in answering any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from directors? Seeing none, okay, so I make the motion. First one.
I move that the Electoral Area Directors Committee recommend the management of development rural areas proposed budget as presented be included in the first reading of the 2026-2030 Alberta Blackfoot Regional District National Plan bylaw.
Seconded by Director Ross. Director Cote, you have a question?
I do, thank you. So I'm understanding then that the decrease this year is because of the OCPs, is that correct?
We had a large surplus last year, and there was numerous grants. So there was OCPs that were supported by the OCP Community Visioning Grant. We also had that funding from the province that was related to all the changes in the housing legislation that they did in late 2024. So that funding had a pretty wide array of abilities to be applied to different things, but had to be spent by the end of the 2025 calendar year. So the housing needs reports were used to do that. Some of the OCP money that did not cover, or the other grant did not cover, was used for that. Some of that development approvals process that wasn't covered under that grant was covered. So it kind of was the catch-all and was able to support a number of different things. We do have community works funds moving forward applied to the OCP work. So that is for the incremental staff time of the two planner ones and the planning assistant, plus the costs of running the open houses and advertising, and that are all going to be covered by the community works funds moving forward. But obviously there's a lot of other work that is done in the service that will have those costs moving back towards a more normalized level.
Thank you. Will any of the OCP money then be carried forward?
So the surplus as a whole for this service is now being brought forward and allowing that tax requisition to drop. So the OCP money, like the grant money from the Community Works Fund, is being carried forward so that it is used to continue doing the updates to the 6 OCPs over these next few years.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from Director Wall?
Okay, with 65 development applications and 34 APC public hearings in 2025, what's the projected application volume for 26? And do staff consider current resources sufficient?
Happy to take that question through the chair. That is in line with the number of applications and meetings that were held in the previous year and on the average since 2021. It has been an elevated number since then. I would anticipate we would have a similar development application load in 2026. We do have the staff in place to deal with that. And I'll also highlight, we also have the implementation of the development approvals process review, where we are looking at ways to make our process more efficient and effective in managing those applications. So we do have that within the work plan for 2026, and we'll be bringing some recommendations for the board to consider as part of the development procedures bylaw. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? No? Does somebody want? Maybe a second. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, thank you. Next, Terry again.
Great, thank you. So moving on to building inspection. So this one has just a small change of 2.44%. I will say the one part that continues to be slightly tricky to us is those pesky accountants and auditors who implemented that new change regarding to revenue recognition. So there is a bit of an estimate as to how much revenue we earn in a year and how much we say we still need to earn in the next year. So this is year 2 of that PSAB adjustment. And are continuing to refine that process. But costs, I think, and building permits are relatively stable, dropped a little bit last year, but managed to keep it at a 2.44% increase. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from directors? Seeing none, can I get somebody to make a motion?
I'll move that the Electoral Areas Directors Committee recommend the building inspection proposed budget as presented be included in the first reading of 2026 to 2030 Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan Bylaw.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Director Beckett? Thank you. Any more questions? Director Rowe.
Okay, with 98 building permits issued in 2025, do staff anticipate permit numbers to hold steady, increase, or decrease in 2026? Because I'm thinking decrease.
Through the chair, I may be the optimist here, but I think that certainly holding steady would be what I would expect, with the potential to increase. So we do have a greater push for housing now, and we issued 41 building permits last year for new dwelling, which is higher than we had experienced in the past. So I do anticipate a greater demand for that. We also have over 200 lots that are at the approval stage that I expect many of those, not many, but some of those will be completed in the coming year. But of course, with the market uncertainties that we have globally and locally, it's hard to predict. I would say that our revenue remained high and our construction value is high, so I wouldn't expect that to drop. But hoping to see a bit more housing in the coming year for sure.
And just one more question. How have the changes from the BC Building Code and the Zero Carbon Step Code impacted inspection capacity and turnaround times?
Yes, good question. It has increased the workload in both informing themselves about how to manage the code. This is building inspectors, but also informing the public about how to build in the way that meets the new code. So there is some extra time in that. Now that I'm not anticipating new changes in 2026, so I think we worked our way through that, and we could focus in on helping people with their building approval where we can. And again, I'll highlight similarly to planning that we are looking at the implementation of the approvals process review on the building side as well. So we'll be bringing forward some updates to the building bylaw in the coming year that will intend to make it a bit more efficient and to remove cost barriers from builders where we can, and to make things just a little bit more streamlined where we're able to.
One more, if that's okay. What level of support is currently provided to municipal and First Nation partners, and does the 2026 budget anticipate increased service agreement activity?
That's a very good question. So we have existing contracts with a couple of the First Nations and with the city of Port Alberni as well. It was inactive for some time, but I'd say in the second quarter of 2025, we did spend some effort in helping the First Nations on the West Coast. The Huayet is the example that I'm thinking of, but also the Toquat Nation as well. So I do anticipate that to increase slightly, and there is some need for some additional inspection support. We are looking to dig into those agreements a little bit to see what level of service those partners in the region will need, and if there's any changes to the agreements, they'll be coming back to the board for a review.
Are there any more questions from directors? No. We have a motion on the floor, correct? Yeah. Not mine. Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Okay. Opposed? And that one is carried. Now we're on item 3. Carry again.
Thank you. So the Vancouver Island Regional Library is a electoral area service here at the ACRD board. It is based off of the ACRD share of the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board's budget. So I did just provide the link to their budget. It's a 4.6% change this year, and I probably won't be able to answer your questions if you have any, but I'm happy to field them and get answers from Viral if you do.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions from directors? Director Cote.
Thank you. Just a reminder that we have no bricks and mortar, that all we support is the whole service as a whole. I know that Tofino is looking at a new library or asking for a new library. I don't know where they're at. I'll be finding out shortly. Maybe Director Boyko could add something to what the changes might be for the future. Thanks.
Tofino is in a scoping study right now, and it's planned to have additional information coming up this year. The 4.6% is much lower than it's been over the past years. The financial plan's better. What was done on the previous board was reallocate money out of the reserves, but the reserves are starting to build up. So we're expecting to have lower numbers like this, or hopefully closer to CPI moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions from directors? Seeing none, does somebody want to make the motion? Kasiga?
I'd like to move that the Electoral Area Directors Committee recommend the Vancouver Island Regional Library proposed budget as presented be included in the first reading of the 2026-2030 Alberta and Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan bylaw.
Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Director Roth. Any more questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. On to item 4. Carry again.
Yeah, thank you. So the economic development is provided to the city of Port Alberni right now as a grant and aid. Last year, the board set the wheels in motion to start discussing whether we want to turn this into a service or what the plan is with it. Late in 2025, we received a grant from UBCM to have a economic development workshop in the region to find out what our partners are all doing. So First Nation partners, whether that's treaty or non-treaty, as well as like what are the Chamber of Commerce doing, and all those components that are kind of supporting that world of economic development. I think that is seen as a first step to kind of deciding if there is an economic development desire from the region and what that scope might possibly be. So at this time, I've just proposed that we keep that grant and aid as we have in the last couple of years, and that is at $10,000, and the contributions for that, you're going to ask me, but are from Area A, Bamfield, and then Sprout Lake, Beaver Creek, and Cherry Creek. So Beaver Creek, Cherry Creek, and Sprout Lake have contributed $3,000 a piece, and Bamfield contributes $1,000. So I have budgeted it in that same manner this year. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. I have Director Rod.
I'm thinking that Beaver Creek actually, when I look at our community, I don't know that we would benefit so much from economic development. Is there any way to lower our contribution?
It's a grant and aid right now to the city, so we definitely could. Your other option is we have historically had the economic development officer from the city come over, and he'll kind of talk about what he's doing from his office that is more beneficial to the electoral area. So we could do an invite to see if he's able to come chat with us, but it is a number that you are able to set. So.
Okay. Yeah, because things are changing, and economic development is kind of something that it's kind of old school in my mind now. And I don't know. It just seems like something that is becoming less important because businesses are doing it on their own.
Okay, I have Director Cote, and then, Daniel present. I have Director Cote.
Thank you. I believe that there's a change happening with the economic development as far as working with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. So I really would like to have them come to the regional district and talk about what they're doing for the region. I do believe that they do provide us with data. That's very important going forward. Looking at the economic development that has been hit hard because of the fires to our communities, affecting our economy. And I think that this is important that we support the economic development. This is a very little contribution for what we're getting, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I have Director Boyko now.
Thank you, Chair. Director Cote just mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. I don't think there's anything related to economic development in this particular thing with the Chamber. I just want to clarify that that's not included here.
I
Okay,
can,
thank you. Go ahead.
so this contribution is towards the city of Port Alberni for their economic development office, yes.
So nothing to do with the Chamber of Commerce. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions from the directors? No. Seeing that, somebody want to make the motion? Okay. Daniel has his name up. Okay, Daniel, go ahead. You're doing very good, but not much coming out there, Daniel. Can you help us out?
Sorry, there we go. The buttons are all over the map here as I'm trying to do dual screen. It sounds to me like the motion that you're leaning towards right now is to at the very least invite the city's economic development officer to present and provide the details directly as to the benefit. So I guess the question would be whether Terry would still like to see it in first reading, or whether we defer that until we hear from the Economic Development Officer. Could you provide some clarity, Terry?
Yeah, so what we could do is invite the economic development officer. I could leave it as is today, and then what I'll do is just make sure that at a future meeting, I bring, like, we have to put it in the bylaw because we want to give the bylaw first reading at the beginning of March, but I can make sure that we don't lose track of the fact that we're not completely satisfied with this one, and we want to circle back and have a discussion about it. So I can leave it as a tentative and just leave this as the draft, but again, narrate that we want to circle back on this conversation following a presentation from the economic development officer.
We got it all figured out now? So that motion to, go ahead, Director Roth.
I'll move to do what Terry said.
So I think Director Roth is wanting to move to invite the City of Port Alberni Economic Development Officer and to circle back on this proposed budget after that discussion. Is that what you were looking for?
Heather, do you have the rough draft of that motion? All right. Can you read it out so we can get a seconder, please?
That the Electoral Area Directors Committee recommend that the City of Port Alberni Economic Development Officer be invited to a future meeting to present on economic development initiatives in the region and to circle back on this discussion after that presentation.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Director Cote. Any more questions on this motion? Seeing none? All those in favor? All opposed, and that is carried. Now we're on to 8B, Electoral Area Administration. And that is that also Terry?
Yes, thank you. So I just broke this one out separately because the Community Works Funds, part of the Canadian or Canada Community Build Fund, are quite a bit of information. And I wanted to provide you an update of each and didn't really want to do that in that massive plan that we produced. So I did this as a separate RFD, but it is for the Electoral Area Administration Service. So two things, or I guess three things happen in here. One, it has that small pockets of money for you guys to do your mail outs or host meetings. That component's in there. This year we have the local government elections and then the Canada Community Build Fund. So we kind of went over most of the elections and other component at the February 12th meeting, but I did provide kind of an update on a number of these projects this year. The one I would like to talk about a little bit further is the capital project manager. So last year we brought the concept of a capital project manager, which would be grant funded, partly by the Community Works funds, partly by other grant funds. Unfortunately, the other grants that we applied were not successful in getting those. So we haven't actually created this term position at this time, as we're very hesitant to do it unless we have enough projects on the work plate to make it substantial enough for it to be worth someone's time. So we are continuing to look at ways of pivoting that, which I think at this point is going to mean contractors. So project management quite often has been done by contractors for us here. And that is what we're looking at or exploring at this time for, in particular, the Sprout Lake Fire Hall to get that project going. And then the Bamfield Fire Hall, West Bamfield Fire Hall project as well. We are very hopeful that some of our strategic priority fund applications will be successful. And at that point, we will have the grant project funds to proceed with this position, but we just aren't there at this time. So that's the one thing that I would like to highlight. Everything else has not been changed from the previous year, with the exception of I just updated the costs and the allocations related to the direction given about the OCPs. I have kind of stretched that over the full 5 years because as you start to finish up things, you're going to have other projects that are electoral area focus that we can continue as long as we use that what is incremental staff at this time to work on grant funded projects, we can continue to use the grant funding to pay for their salaries. So if at some point the projects dry up, then so do those positions. But I think right now there's more than enough planning work on the agenda, including floodplain management bylaws and stuff, that we can keep that going. So happy to answer questions.
Thank you for that. And some of these are 2027 projects, so I assume we'll be looking at them next year, or we can decide them this year.
They're all in the financial plan, and now I'm just noticing that I forgot to put the actual table on here. Sorry. They're all on the plan right now as the 5-year, so that we are planning for them and start looking at them in advance. But obviously the majority, if not all of those, have not been started. I'm just going to double check. None of those 2027 ones have been started. So if there needs to be a reallocation of funds, we can definitely do that.
Thank you for that. Any questions? I have Director Roth and Director Boyko.
Thank you. I'm just hoping that Terry can explain page 27, the table variance to population allocation.
Yeah, for sure.
The Beaver Creek doesn't look like it's huge.
Yeah, so this one changes over time. So depending on the projects, like Beaver Creek was in the minus for a number of years when we were first out of the gates because we addressed those needs first. Now it's kind of swayed the other way. It is an indicator, not an absolute. There is no requirement in the funding. In fact, they actually very much push back against areas that are doing it by population, but just kind of gives a needs. Like the funding does come from the federal government in terms of population, but then the province tells us not to use the population necessarily as the guideline. So we do continue to look at that. Obviously, as you have projects are coming up, potentially your new water source, or even your is it not the Kitts Reservoir, the North Reservoir project? Those are definitely going to be ones that are highly eligible for this next discussion of funding. So and then there's some areas that are becoming challenging to spend money in. So Director Boyko in Beaufort, it doesn't look like he's doing all that well on the population variance either. However, we don't run any services in the individual area of Beaufort. Prior to this latest Canada Community Build Fund agreement, we could spend money and have spent quite a bit of money at the Beaver Creek Hall. But that latest amendment to the plan by the federal government now makes it very challenging for us to give out money to outside of our organization. So I do feel like, unlike your area, Director Roth, I think it's going to be challenging for us to spend money in the Beaufort area. But areas that have water systems, fire departments, any of those things, it's going to be easy for us to find needs for the funding.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know some boards that use this money to supplement other areas like the city. Luckily, we don't.
Mine's the opposite of that.
Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the Beaufort area, we don't have services, we don't want services, and that's how we like it. So it is challenging to spend money in that area. Just on a fundamental level, though, we're looking at what, a 7.4% overall cost increase here. And food inflation January was like 7.3%. So anytime we talk about adding lots of projects and more staff on a fundamental level, it becomes quite problematic for people right now because of the huge cost increases we're seeing for everything that people touch right now. So there's one thing that was said about having a capital projects manager and having enough projects for them to work on. I would challenge staff to look at it differently, as in look at what's important, talk to the people through the directors of what stuff we actually want to do and what's required. And then we can say, hey, do we actually need extra people? Because the sentiment out there is definitely not adding extra staff at this point. And if we need to drop a couple projects to keep things going, let's do it. That's my thought. Thank you.
If I can just circle back to the increase in general, the increase in general should be significantly higher than that 7%. It is only not high because of that offset, or because, Isn't it higher than 7%? Sorry, you've got me rattled now. Because I forgot to add
I was
these
talking
pages to the thing.
overall ACRD budget
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, EA admin should be a lot more than 7% because of the election. So you were
because of the
speaking of the
election, but
overall.
that's going to go back down next year.
Yeah.
Are we changing that number now that we are unable to do a referendum, or is that going to change or not?
That number did not include referendum costs.
Okay.
That number will go up substantially if we do a referendum. However, the referendum costs are always shared by the participants. So like Bamfield, if it's an Alberni Valley Aquatics referendum, it would be shared by the city of Port Alberni and the participating AV electoral areas. It wouldn't be shared by like Long Beach and Bamfield. So, but we would package that with a discussion about the AV Aquatics proposed service if we get to that point.
Okay. I have questions about some individual items if you want to do that, or I'll let someone else talk for a bit.
Right now, you can keep going if you so choose.
Carry on. Okay, broadband strategy, $20,000 seems like a little bit of money, but is that actually required? Like that seems, you got internet, you don't have internet, and you pay for it and you move on. I mean, to me, that seems kind of not required. What value will that bring more than someone just looking to see if they have Wi-Fi? Do we have to do it? Can we remove it?
So this is something that's on our strategic plan. We've put it out to 2027. We aren't hearing as much. I would say 4 years ago, there was a lot of talk about this. There was a lot of pockets, I believe, in Long Beach that were having connectivity issues. There were some, I believe, near the end of Beaufort or end of Beaver Creek that were having internet issues. And then the Bamfield corridor. So like the driving to Bamfield component was also a bit of what would be under the study. So it is on our strategic plan. When I spoke with Daniel, we opted to move it to next year. We're not overly certain what the board wants to do with this at this time. So we would like to have a conversation about it in 2026 to action in 2027. For a number of years, there was some funding that we could get through the Ministry of Citizen Services, I believe they're called, that might have been able to match these funds in order to do a study of our area. But we haven't looked at that for a while. So not completely confident that we're going to proceed with that, but I feel like we need to circle back on it a bit more before we take it off.
Copy. As someone that lives in the middle of nowhere here, I mean, I got fiber optic at my place here. It's all over the place now. If you don't have it and you haven't opted for a Starlink, which is almost similar price, then I think your problem's already been solved. Second thing, flood bylaw. Did we not take that off, or we're pushing that backward? And what's that actually going to say? Like, don't build big buildings and apartments in a flood zone, or is it going to be more than that?
I'll let Alex take the second part of that question, but the first part of the question is that we pushed it back a year to 2027.
Yeah, and so the nature of the floodplain bylaw, it will be to manage new development that's within the designated 200-year floodplain. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't build there. It will just establish the engineering standards that you would need to obtain before being able to build. It also would include some exemptions for things like simple structures and additions and renos, which we're not able to do now.
Yeah, I was just concerned yesterday or this morning when we were talking about the Aquatic Center. Oh no, it's Tuesday. When they said one option might be on Mary Street, and when you plan on putting big infrastructure at any level, city ACRD doesn't matter, in a floodplain that is mapped, that's very problematic, and that should be pretty obvious to people too. Bamfield Regional Plan, I don't know. There's a lot of emphasis on Bamfield here if you look at the numbers, and we'll have to do some reckoning to see how we can make that more equitable for all. And it's good the numbers that you're providing there. So you can see like Bamfield is getting a lot of money, Sproul Lake's getting a little bit more than they should, but Beaufort, we have nothing really spent it on, so we'll gladly donate it to someone that can help out unless something pops up. Long Beach is doing low, and Beaver Creek as well. So having those numbers, I think, is good to give us some good guidance on how we can fairly allocate things. So things like the Bamfield Regional Plan, is that necessary to do at this time compared to fire departments and fire trucks? And perhaps we should look at being more equitable for all areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Cote.
Thank you. This funding moves around a lot. There was years where Sprout Lake couldn't spend any money or very little of the money. And Beaver Creek was in need. And I look at all of these fundings I do a heat sheet. So where is our liability? Right now it's Banfield, definitely. We need, if there's a problem there, and there's an insurance claim, we all pay. So if there's a need, we need to address. I think that these funds need to be allocated using our common sense, I guess, to make sure that our liabilities are covered. I know for years Sprout Lake didn't have anything when they wouldn't allow the money to be used for fire departments. So the new real allocations make it more easy for areas like mine to be able to access that money. But I totally support Banfield getting what they are, because it's a liability to us and we need to make sure that we're covered. And also in the past, we've taken other grants that all areas could apply for and made sure that the regions that couldn't get the money from here were allocated from other areas. Thank you. Maybe Terry could talk to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that this is just one of our grants. So the other thing is often the things that are on this this work plan, I'll call it, are the things that make our strongest grant applications. So they're often the things that we apply to other programs. And obviously, if we can get other funds to support different items, such as like water main upgrades in Beaver Creek or something, then we reallocate that fund back into the pot. So this is only one component. There's been lots of like trails, for example, built in Sprout Lake for Director Cote that were originally allocated community works funds and then got pivoted. And then in Banfield's case with the water main upgrades, we did end up getting a grant for that and gave back some of the money we'd originally allocated to that project, but the timing between our grant application and them awarding it saw significant cost increases. So that $360 almost $1,000 that's remaining there is going to use to support the cost overruns well, they're not really cost overruns, the timing of the cost increases from the time that we applied to the time that we're actually constructing that submarine line. So going to be used for that this year. But yeah, just one piece of the grant puzzle. It's hard to capture all the components of it, as all of our grants are through many services.
Okay, thank you. I have Director Beckett, and then I have Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Boyko's comments are fair with respect to appropriate equity amongst all of the electoral areas. But I do have to say that, with road improvements to Banfield, with us beginning our OCP, we clearly do need to invest some time and effort to make sure that we do get it right, so that we don't end up regretting not doing our due diligence. And if that does take some extra funds, I'm certainly going to be grateful if the board supports that approach. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And now I have Daniel.
Thank you. I won't duplicate what Director Beckett just said, but I will build on the fact that some of the Banfield regional planning work that we're looking to do is unique in the region. It's also unique in the province. And so we have interest in doing the work to see if it can't be duplicated in other areas. And the work I want to specifically refer is that interlacing of treaty and non-treaty lands in an area. And so obviously we have 4 treaty nations, but where it is of particular interest is that across Canada, treaty nations represent 40% of the land mass. And they're often pooled in the same pocket as non-treaty nations when we talk about consultation. but the reality is that the treaty nations have already developed, as part of their treaty, economic visions and economic plans. And so as they turn those into reality on their lands, the interface between treaty and non-treaty is super important. And that just doesn't seem to exist anywhere that I'm aware of right now across Canada. So the work that we're funding here is of strategic importance, because getting that interlacing and that collaborative work at a planning level done in a good way is something that actually many other people would be seeking to duplicate moving in the future. So I wouldn't want to lose that 100,000, and I see that as being important. The other thing I wanted just to flag is on that $20,000 with the broadband. The reality is that the market has made announcements and actions. So at first, Rogers said they were going to do towers so that we'd have that connection from the Alberni Valley through to Tofino. I'm not aware of an update on that project, but I am aware of the fact that we have worked with them to place a tower right by the landfill, and have negotiated with them. So when they bring that power, they brought the power right to the doorstep. So we could benefit from that 3-phase. And that is work that we did in 2025. The other is well stated by Director Boyko, is that other technologies do come in, like Starlink, and it could very well be that next time we revisit the strategic plan, that the board doesn't want to pursue broadband as an overt strategy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And I have Director Boyko again.
No, I think we're having a good conversation here, and talking about liability is a good thing. And liability of water for Banfield, great thing. Upgrading fire trucks and things, great thing. I question, and I'm going to say this, the Sproat Lake Fire Department, I know it's 1.3 million to add on to an existing building. I think it was 12 feet. And I don't know if the work's been done, and I'm sure it has been, but can't we build a brand new hall for that price? I'm just saying, but it is what it is. My main concern here is the Beaver Creek fire truck. And I wholly support, and I think we're spacing them out a bit better than having the two main ones so close together. But my main comment is, are we looking at multiple suppliers? Because every time it is discussed in this room, they're only talking about one supplier. And are we actually putting this out to bid, like BC bids for like 3-4 suppliers? Or how is that actually working? I just want to make sure that we're following the proper procurement strategy here. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think I will maybe hop in there. I just saw a report yesterday about the cost of fire trucks, and they're doing a study in the state to see if they're price gouging or not. So, because during COVID, the prices, they jumped ridiculously high, and they haven't come down. So, but they are doing right now, they're looking at that in the States. But I'll let Daniel speak now. He says hand up.
You stole some of my thunder there, Mr. Chair. But I will also add that we are following procurement. There are only 2 bodies right now that offer the build that we're looking for. So it's a 50-50 chance in terms of the 2 suppliers. We are working with Civic Info and looking at the joint procurement that we are part of, called Canoe, and looking to see if we can't expand to a larger sort of pool of interest when we're putting some of these bids out for some of the fire apparatus, fire trucks. So there's more to come there. It is a bit of a changing world. And as you know, we have been looking at options of used, and so just trying to see if we can stagger or change some of the purchasing schedules, right? So yeah, there's a lot in there, but you're correct, and everyone is concerned by the extremely high costs and the fact that the cost of apparatus has far outstripped inflation in all appropriate areas.
So here's my main question. If we are supplying specifications for a fire truck, and I'm not a firefighter, but I am an engineer that specifies stuff like this, pumps and engines, are we making our specification so specific that only 2 companies qualify, as opposed to say, I need a fire truck with hoses, pump, and a tank, and it has to go 100 miles before it runs out of gas? Like, can we broaden our specifications to get more suppliers and influence and get a bigger pool? Or are we narrowing down to, I need one that will only work in Beaver Creek, period?
Um,
Do you want me
I,
to answer that? I can probably answer that a little bit better.
you
wouldn't
probably
mind?
have more experience than me. Go for it then.
But
You are the chair.
just on a broad scale, it's a city fire truck or a rural fire truck?
Well, the
Full
way
stop. What is more, what do we have to specify more than that?
when you're looking at a fire truck, there's about 100,000 different options you can put on a fire truck to begin with, right off the hop. Just so you know, I know of 5 manufacturers, but some are in the States, so they might be hit with the tariffs for 25%. When you get a fire truck, you get a fire truck. There are no hoses, there are no nozzles. You get a bare bones fire truck. There's no breathing apps. You can ask for ladders if you want. That's an option. But BC has been renowned for customizing their fire trucks, and Alberta's been known for taking off the shelves, but there's no more off the shelf stuff. So you put it for what you need for your community, and you try and project 15 years out in your community what that truck will need. Because it is a 30-year lifespan, so you need to project further out than just for today. If you're going to buy a fire truck for today, the time it gets here in 2 years, it will be outdated.
So, okay, I just got to stop you there because I know you got a lot to say. But you said something very important. BC customizes theirs. Alberta doesn't buy them off the shelf. Is there a fundamental flaw in how we do it to make it better and save money for our taxpayers to do a better job?
No.
Just full stop?
The
I
quick
mean,
answer
I'd like
is
to investigate this more because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we got fire trucks in Banfield, Sproat Lake, and Beaver Creek that we're constantly going through this every 3 years.
true. They're all different. Banfield wants a short fire truck or turning radiuses in tight areas. Sproul Lake needs one with a bigger turning angle for up and down driveways. And Beaver Creek can have more of a municipal size fire truck for what they do. So they're all different styles for all different reasons depending on your area. And that's why they're customized. So a city fire truck wouldn't really work in Banfield. And they don't want it. They want a short, small turning radius fire truck that can go up and down gravel roads as opposed to what Beaver Creek can do. And the customization doesn't really add too much more to the cost. So it sounds ridiculous, but it doesn't. But they are very expensive. And you have to expend the life expectancy of 30 years. So you hopefully get 12 and a half years between fire trucks. Right now, I think Beaver Creek's fire truck is 2020, and they're looking to get one in 2027. Well, that's not 12 and a half years. So that's doing a discredit to the people, the taxpayers. So that has to be increased if you can. Sport Lake is different. They have a 20-year lifespan because they have tanker trucks without hydrants. If it had hydrants, it'd be 30 years. So that's a disservice out there too. And there are some areas that have half and half. So they can do either or there. So it's not as simple as going down to the car dealership and buying a car and getting a few options. You can customize this thing any way you want. And they all are expensive. So when they say there's only 2, there's probably about 5 suppliers, but I think the tariffs are kicking some of us off the market. If you want to look at fire trucks, the pumps are made in the States. The engines and chassis are made in the States. The lights are made in the States. Everything's pretty well made in the States, but the aluminum and the welding in the back. So they are expensive. They're already customized for reasons. They're going to go to clean tab technology in the future, which means when you come out of a fire, you strip down, put all your stuff into bags, and you take it back to the fire hall and you wash it. You don't get back in that fire truck with dirty gear anymore. So that's going to be a customized change, and that's going to be expensive too. So we are trying to do what we can for the firefighters to get them out of the cancer situations of their gear and the environment, but that means we have to modify the apparatus to suit, and it'll be bigger, and we'll have to carry more stuff. So there's no short answer. There's no honest, cheap answer. It's going to be expensive, but the best we can do is extend the fire truck to 12 and a half years between them. Or in the case of Port Lake, about 4 years, because I think they need 5 fire trucks, if I'm not mistaken. Hope that clarifies. Director Roth.
Thank you. Since I've been here, we've been talking about regional fire service, and actually many years before that. And I haven't seen anything really concrete about that. Like, there's got to be a way to have cost savings especially between Beaver Creek and Sprout Lake and possibly Cherry Creek. I know they're not in the ACRD, but I mean, something could happen, it could change. But it just seems so ridiculous to have, I don't know how many fire trucks there are between them, but there's got to be, double digit. It just seems outrageous, actually.
Short answer, no. Just so you know, you have to have 5 miles or 8 kilometers as your radius for your response area. Once you get past that, then you have to have the fire hall further out. So Sprout Lake Hall number 3 is a little close to the city, but not by much. So, and then there's the amount of apparatus you need per fire hall, and when our responding firefighters you need per fire hall in order to consider it to be a fire hall. If you fall into the numbers, you can get knocked out of the fire underwriters. Remember, this is not us making the rules. This is the insurance company making the rules. They're telling you what they can do. Some of the things you can do, move Beaver Creek Fire Hall a little further out to get more people in Beaufort the chance for fire protection if they like it as a cost savings. But if you took Beaver Creek Fire Hall out, for example, there'd be people out there that would lose fire protection because of that part. They need protection from the fire hall being that close. And you need 2 fire trucks, our pumping capacity out there of 625 gallons per minute minimum in each hall. So no, you can't really cut down apparatus or fire halls, nothing. It sounds ridiculous, but it's insurance company.
One more question. When the last time I went to get house insurance, they didn't ask if there was a valve out front of my house or anything like that, or any fire hydrants. They were more concerned with wildfires. So maybe we should be looking at the insurance. Maybe things have changed.
They do actually look at, like they pull up your property through BC assessment and they can see that your Beaver Creek Fire Protection Code is attached to your property. So I think they're just getting that information without asking you now by looking up the property identifiers. So I do believe it's a factor, but just not one that's needed to be requested.
I'm just wondering, I would like to look at myself just to see what the insurance companies like. I don't even know who I would contact just to find out if things are changing.
So this is an answer from back when we stopped providing service to Franklin River Road fire protection through the agreement with the city. But at that time, the insurance companies won't put a value on just your fire protection. Your insurance ranking or rating is based on all of your factors as a group together. So they won't say like, oh, it'll increase you by like 25% or whatever. They at that time anyways wouldn't tell you exactly what it's looking, because I think they decided you have a trampoline and what's the age of all the stuff around your house and are you going to flood, and they kind of look at it as a group and not as like an individual attribute.
One more short thing here is I always find it odd that fire departments are not a required service. It's a choice. So it's a pretty expensive choice we're making. So I really would like to make sure we stay on top of this one anyways. Thank you.
Before I go to the direction, we'll chime in a few things. It is a choice, but if you don't have fire insurance, you'll be paying more insurance than you would if you have a fire department and pay fire insurance. So it's a cost-effective way. That's also good for the heart, as it were. Franklin River is a little different because there are no hydrants out there, so you have to have a tanker truck service, and they have to be in a certain amount of radius in order to get there to get their numbers they need down. Like Sport Lake has so superior shuttle accreditation, and that would be the same thing with Franklin River. So there is a lot of different factors to go into multitude. Either way, I'm trying to get back to Franklin River. And I will go Director Cote and then Director Boyko.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that Sprout Lake has looked at the insurance cost, and it's some people have said it's up to 70 or not, pardon me, it's up to 40% reduction in their insurance, their fire insurance cost, and when you communicate, oh my God, I can't speak anymore. When you put all of that savings together, it more than covers the cost for our fire insurance. Costs cover the cost of our fire protection on our taxation. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Boyko.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I just did a quick search here on fire truck people in Canada, and there's 5 main manufacturers I know of. I just want to make sure we're actually talking all 5 of them, and they all seem valid. So the question regarding insurance costs versus fire protection, I think that it's hard to generalize that it's 20%, 40% savings or whatever. It depends on many different factors. And if you're an engineer, you might get cheaper insurance than a normal person. So there's lots of factors as well that come into play, but when you start making those decisions. So general statements like that, it's kind of hard to quantify. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you find 2 in BC, 1 in Quebec, and 1 in New Brunswick, I believe. I don't know what the 5th one is. And there's also the ones in the States. Great. Any more questions from directors? Seeing none. Somebody want to make a motion? Okay, Director Roth.
I'll move that the Electoral Area Directors Committee recommend the Electoral Area Administration proposed budget as presented. With that, it's actually not as presented, is it? Yeah, okay. Be included in the first reading of the 2026-2030 Alberta-Clayoquot Regional District Financial Plan bylaw. That's right.
Thank you. A seconder by Director Cote, is that correct? Thank you. Any more questions? Hearing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. And that is that. Now we're on to reports. We don't have any reports, do we? See? No late business. We're narrowing down to question period.
There's no questions received and there's nobody in the audience.
Thank you. Item 12. Who wants to move item 12? Oh, by Director Ross, seconded by Director Siegel. All those in favor for adjournment? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the meeting. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody. It is sunny and blue sky outside. Go out and enjoy it before the snow comes in a couple days. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.